Hey, I'm Daryl.
I'm Jay, and you are listening to the Story Geeks podcast, which is produced by the Reclamation Society. What are we doing today, Daryl?
Today is a special episode. We're not digging deeper. We're not hashing anything out. We're not making anything better. Okay, well, we might do a little bit
We're
of that
sort of
stuff.
doing all of the above.
We are, so yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Today we are talking about the Story Geeks podcast, Best of 2017.
I like it.
Now, what that means is, listeners out there, best of means your favorites, the ones that you guys downloaded the most. That's what this is based on. We looked at our top 10 downloads, which equated to 9 subjects because one of them was the same movie twice.
Yeah. Which was, I think, Revenge of the Sith?
Revenge of the Sith,
Yeah.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through every single one of these, reminisce a little bit, talk about the subject, and then we have a brand new question for every single topic.
Each movie. So each of your favorite podcasts, we're going back into them with a new question, which is super cool. And Daryl has come up with some amazing questions on here, so really looking forward to that. Also, stick around because we now actually have a Patreon account. So for those of you who don't know what Patreon is basically a service that allows us to charge you for premium content. So you get to subscribe. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to create more content. You get to support us, which then allows us to do even more content. And it's this really cool flywheel of just more and more content for you guys. And we love doing this. So the more we can do this for you, the better. And you can actually support us on Patreon. There's different giving amounts that you can do per month. Nothing too crazy. You don't have to give a whole bunch to do it. So you can just go on, sign up to give, and you will get exclusive content. So what's the exclusive content look like today?
In this case, I'm going to grill you a bit.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to, in June of 2016, you started what was then the Reclamation Society podcast.
That's right, yeah.
And has become the Story Geeks podcast.
Yep.
And I came in pretty early, but I came in later. And so I've got a few questions for you about some stuff that I didn't tell you about. So I'm going to blindside you.
Very intimidating, but
Yes.
Let's go for it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you lead us through this whole podcast.
Okay. Well, we're going to dive in here. These, I guess, typically you count things down. Like you start at the bottom and go all the way to 1.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to go the other direction because that's how I've created these questions. So we'll start. Question number 1 is based on the most downloaded episode that we've had of the Story Geeks podcast.
In 2017.
In 2017.
Yeah.
Which is on Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Mm-hmm.
Which I believe was a Make It Better episode, or was this the
No,
Dig Deeper?
this is a Dig Deeper. So this was a Dig Deeper with special guest Tim Posada.
That's right. Oh,
yeah.
Man, that was fun.
That was super fun.
Yeah.
That was a great podcast.
That was good. How long did we spend talking about Martha?
Oh, I don't even know.
It was
much longer than Tim wanted to talk about it.
And a lot more time since then on other movies that have nothing to do with this one. We still talk about Martha.
There is a Make It Better on Batman v Superman as well. It's just that this one's not the Make It Better.
Yeah. And we talk about Martha then too.
We do. Yep.
Martha. Well, this question is not about Martha.
No.
This question is about Batman v Superman as the second part of a trilogy.
Yep.
So we have the benefit now, which we didn't then, of seeing this trilogy that Zack Snyder mostly intentionally had. I guess when they were making Man of Steel, they weren't totally sure, but
that's true.
It's Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, and Justice League.
Yep.
So now that we can picture this movie as the second installment of a trilogy, my question is, how do you think it works as a second installment of a trilogy? How does it stand up against other famous second installments?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's such a good question. I don't think that it fits at all as the second movie in this trilogy.
Really?
So my go right off the bat, just straight to I don't think it works that well. I think Man of Steel and BVS fit tonally, and the themes are carried through one film to the next. And I really like that. I really liked Man of Steel, and I like the tone that BVS set. We've talked about all the storytelling issues it has. But then when we get to the Justice League, several of the themes from BVS were either abandoned. So, for example, using Steppenwolf to usher in Darkseid, it's pretty much abandoned. There's a couple references here and there to it, but for the most part, it's pretty much abandoned.
So doesn't that then mean that Justice League is the one that doesn't fit.
Well, this is in the context of a trilogy,
Yeah.
right? So would I say Justice League doesn't fit? Yes, but as a second movie setting up the third movie, now you've created this like sort of weird time warp where it's like, well, neither one of them really fit, right? So let me put it this way. I blame Justice League
Yeah.
for the issues.
Yeah.
But what it does to cause this movie, whether or not it causes it to fit or not, I think that this movie now doesn't fit even worse. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So either there is themes that were abandoned, like I just mentioned, or totally bastardized. So like the inclusion of the parademons seems like a completely like it's going one direction. And it's like, no, we're just gonna go this direction instead. So I kind of got that. I think that Justice League could have made BVS better.
Yeah.
And instead it made it worse.
Maybe still could if we get that Snyder cut.
I really hope we get a Snyder cut. So here's my like kind of final wrap up for this question. If The Empire Strikes Back is how to do it correctly, and Too Fast, Too Furious is how you don't do it, then I'd say Justice League had the potential to make BVS like a solid like the Two Towers from the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, yeah.
But instead, it actually made it more like a Matrix Reloaded.
Okay.
I thought about that a lot too.
You
by the
did.
way.
That's very well worded.
Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, I blame Justice League as well for the problems.
Okay.
So to me, I see the failing as Justice League being a weak third entry.
Sure.
And I think that BVS is actually a great second entry. I think it's a great...
Yeah.
Because I guess I'm linking it more to Man of Steel, and I think it's a great progression out of Man of Steel.
Right.
Because it does three things which I think all good second installments should do.
Okay.
It introduces new elements.
Okay.
It darkens things up.
True.
And it sets up a tension that will carry into the third film.
This is true.
So it does all those three things really well.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that the third film didn't pick up that tension very well, it's not the fault of the second film.
That's a good point.
So
That's a good point.
it's partially the fault of the same filmmaker, but what are you going to do?
I think what I was doing is I was taking all three films and then saying, like, now that we have all three, Justice League definitely is the one that doesn't fit. But if you're going to end up there, then I'm like, oh, well, what happened in episode 2 where in episode 3 it doesn't fit? That's kind of what I was asking.
But does that take away from the quality of the second film?
No, I don't think it takes away from the quality of the second film. I think it takes away from the quality of the trilogy.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you think about it, like, The Matrix, I brought up the Matrix trilogy, right?
Yeah.
The third Matrix film is by far the worst of the three. The second one is like, well, that's probably passable if the third one's better, but the third one's worse. So then you go back to the second one and you're like...
And I can think of others like that, too. Like, not a geek franchise, but Beverly Hills Cop. The first two are really good. The third one's terrible.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I like that.
So,
That was a good question. I really enjoyed that.
There was, when I was looking into this, I was trying to put together my lists of good second installments versus bad second installments.
Yep.
And Too Fast, Too Furious, Matrix Reloaded, Cars 2 was another one that I thought of.
I still haven't even seen Cars 2. I heard it was so bad.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Cars 3 is great.
Really?
I think, personally, I loved Cars 3.
All right.
But I came across a good list that it's from whatculture.com.
Okay.
And it says 10 films that prove the middle entry in a trilogy is always the best.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
So we see if you agree with these. Just a little sidetrack here.
Okay.
So The Evil Dead 2.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it either. From what I understand, it's more just like a bigger budget remake of the first Evil Dead.
Oh, okay. Sure.
But
so it's almost more like a homage film than it is anything else.
Yeah, or just like hey, someone's going to give us more money to do this again and try and make it better. Right. You know.
Okay.
X2, X-Men United.
Okay.
Which, if you take the first three movies as a trilogy, for sure, that's the best one.
Yeah.
By a mile. Desperado.
Yeah.
Which
Desperado, because you're counting.
El
Mariachi. Once upon a time, El Mariachi, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico is the bookend.
Yeah.
By the way, I know this is totally off topic. I liked Once Upon a Time in Mexico. It is bizarre, but I liked it. Yeah.
Robert Rodriguez, he doesn't quite click for me.
Oh, okay. I like him sometimes.
Mad Max 2 was another one.
Beyond, is that Beyond the Thunderdome?
No, that's the
3?
third one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Blade 2, which was the one directed by
Okay.
Guillermo del Toro.
Okay.
Which, for me, I would disagree on that one. I think the third one's really fun. It's cheesy, but it's fun.
I don't even remember it well enough.
Yeah.
I have to go back. I'll do a series on Make It Better Blade.
Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Which, again,
Oh,
if you're looking at just the first 3 films as a trilogy.
Yeah. I like the first film the best, though.
Really?
Yeah, I love the original Terminator.
T2 has a special place in my heart. Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. A lot of people say that's the best one. I hate all 3 of those films, so I don't really care. But
that's funny.
The Dark Knight. Duh.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Obvious.
We'll talk more about that.
Yep.
Godfather Part 2, which I will confess I have not seen. I haven't seen any of the Godfather movies.
I feel like I've seen the first 2 and not the third one.
Mafia movies, just not my thing.
I like mafia movies, but for whatever reason, like the 1970s mafia is not as interesting to me as like the back in the day, like the 1930s, like Prohibition mafia.
Yeah.
So.
And then Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, that's the one that taught us how to do it all.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, let's go to question number 2.
All right.
Which is The Dark Knight. Speaking of...
And by the way, before you ask your question, if you look at the most downloaded podcast of all time, it's this one.
Okay.
So if you include 2016 in the stats,
okay,
then this one is actually the number 1 downloaded podcast of all time.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
It's the best movie of all time. So that just makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so here's my question.
Yeah.
You and I, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm not.
Yeah.
We would both still put The Dark Knight on the top of our comic book movies list.
Comic book movies, absolutely number 1, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question is, why? What makes it better? I mean, after all these years, since The Dark Knight came out, we've gotten the MCU.
Yep.
We've gotten the DCEU.
Yep.
We've gotten all kinds of comic book films.
Yep.
A lot of people like Deadpool, not my thing, but we've gotten Deadpool. We've gotten a ton.
Yes.
And it's been proven that it's a viable genre. It can be done really well by really great, talented people.
Yep.
And yet nobody has dethroned Chris Nolan.
No.
Why do you think that is?
So I could go into so many different things, but the basic thing I came away with as I was just contemplating this, like, why is this so good? And I just came down to, I feel like this film is art.
Yeah.
Like if you aliens show up on your doorstep, right? Like on your doorstep, like, hey, like they knock on the door, and you open the door, and they're like, hey, we just want you to show us like some of the best art that you have, right?
Yeah.
You pull out this film. I mean, it is like, first of all, a compelling story, cinematically brilliant, amazing performances, Oscar-worthy performances from multiple actors.
The only performance from a superhero movie to ever win an Oscar.
Is it Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well deserved. I call it the best performance on film because I'm crazy about that. But like, I think it's so good. You have 2 worldviews that are classic worldviews that have been developed in the comics for decades. But you take Batman of like trying to create order, and you have Joker who's trying to create chaos and like mess with Batman's sense of like what the world really is and how the world really works. Take those 2 things. It's not a comic book film. It's a work of art. And everyone involved in the production took it that way. Like there's not a single person that stopped and was like, this is just a stupid comic book movie. Like I'm just going to act stupid or I'm going to act ridiculous.
Yeah.
Every single person was like, no, we're creating a work of art and I'm going to put that level of attention into it.
Yeah.
And everybody bought into Nolan's vision because this vision is pretty ridiculous for a comic book movie at this point in time.
What do you mean?
Well, you hadn't seen a lot of dark, realistic takes. Maybe you had like what, The Crow?
Yeah.
But even that was a little ridiculous.
Well, we had Batman Begins.
Right. So just carrying through that.
He
whole
had the trusted.
Yes. So he came at it with this different perspective, and he had to get everybody involved from the studio, the screenwriters, to all buy into this thing that said like, well, I'm creating a work of art. It just so happens to star Batman.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think people were crying for it because the last Batman film that we saw before this one was Batman and Robin, which is a cheesy, stupid 2-hour toy commercial.
Yes.
And it's entertaining for its own reasons.
Sure.
But not good.
Right.
And since then, we had gotten an X-Men movie.
Yep.
We'd gotten Spider-Man movies that I didn't like, but you can't argue were a giant improvement.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it had been proven already that a good comic book movie could be made.
Yeah.
Without Christopher Reeve, I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
but so by now it's like, okay, the formula works. We've seen it.
Yeah.
Can we finally get a good Batman movie, please?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And I think you can make an argument that like Tim Burton helped from way back in the day. But those, I think when you watch all of those movies, like all of those movies feel like, so here, I'll give you an example. It's like watching Starship Troopers in comparison to watching Blade Runner. Right? Like both take place in a fanciful universe or a made up universe, but one of them is hyper realistic and made to be an art house film.
Yeah.
The other one is basically just made to be you eating popcorn and just like being entertained, right?
Yeah.
And I think all comic book movies up until that point, before Batman Begins, were kind of that like, let's just eat popcorn and watch a movie, you know? But this is the first one where it was like, wait a minute, like the Batman Begins was, but then this was like the continuation of that will work. Let's pour everything we have into it.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, you talked about Tim Burton. Tim Burton, I think when the 1989 Batman came out, it was dark.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, that was the darkest mainstream superhero film anybody had ever made at that point. The difference between that one and this one is I just don't think it holds up.
True.
You know?
That's true.
I really feel like The Dark Knight, I mean, I know it's only been, 5-6 years since it came out, but... Oh, no.
The Dark Knight?
2000.
Like 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. So, same year as Iron Man, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But...
another great movie.
I know it's only been that long, but I think it's going to hold up. I don't think we're going to look back on it and feel like it's dated and cheesy, which I think Tim Burton's film feels that way.
It does, yeah. It does.
But Tim Burton's film started a vibe that helped get to The Dark Knight. You know?
No question.
I mean, it informed the animated series, which informed a lot of comics. And
so that's very true.
I think some of the other reasons that it's so great are it was the first superhero movie. Well, Batman Begins was the first superhero movie to really take supporting characters seriously.
Ooh, yeah.
And put life into them.
Absolutely.
And then The Dark Knight just carried that on further.
Yep.
To the point where all of them overshadowed Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did.
It's totally true.
So
if you said, hey Jay, name your favorite characters, like Batman from The Dark Knight, the Batman character,
it's like fifth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's so many good, but again, you think of all the people that you're asking Michael Caine to like, hey, play Alfred, but like play him like as a real like father figure.
Yeah.
Like don't make it all cheesy. Like really do this justice. And it's like, can you imagine Michael Caine? Like it's just Oscar winner, right? I assume Michael Caine. Yeah, it's got to be
for sure. As is Gary Oldman, as is Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, dude, so
and Christian
amazing.
Bale too. I mean, all of them are.
So good. We could probably do another hour on it.
And the great injustice is, do you know who is not an Oscar winner?
At the time?
At all. Even now still.
Who?
Chris Nolan.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Somebody vote that dude in. Now he's
nominee.
He's nominated this year too, right?
Yeah.
Is he?
I'm sure he will be.
Yeah,
I haven't
he will
seen
be.
the list yet.
He should be.
And he's been nominated before.
Yeah. He's amazing.
He's never won. I think he got nominated for Interstellar, but
oh, did he?
He didn't win. Yeah.
Yeah, he's outstanding.
The only other thing I was going to say is the mystery behind the Joker's character.
Oh yeah.
And not I mean, we've talked about that. Like, he just wants to watch the world burn.
Right.
It's more interesting not to know his backstory.
Right.
But specifically to juxtapose that against Batman, whose backstory we know completely.
Yeah.
We completely understand his motivation.
Yep.
We know what he's doing. So to see that so calculated and understood put up against something that just has no history whatsoever. We don't know where it's coming from. It's
Yeah.
super interesting.
It is. Totally agree.
So, and the Tumblr. Oh man, I love the Tumblr. I know it was in Batman Begins first, but
That's true. Actually, for those of
Right.
you who don't know this, Daryl, when he bought a black Prius and named it the Tumblr, which has its own irony to it, but I like it.
looks kind of like the Tumblr.
Yeah, it's like a mini Tumblr.
And don't give me any crap for buying a Prius because you have one too.
I have
but
one too, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Hey, it's great gas mileage.
It is. Yours isn't black. It should be.
No, yeah, it's not.
So The Dark Knight.
Amazing.
So good.
Yep.
All right. So our third movie is the first one on the list and the only one on the list. I'm checking. Yeah. The only one on the list that you did not participate in.
I know. And as I saw it, whenever I would see it like climbing the charts, I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh man, I'm not on that one. I was all jealous of it.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
So it's Interstellar.
Yep.
So that's our third most downloaded of
Elvis
2017.
Iescas.
Elvis Iescas?
Yeah. The Dark Knight, it should be mentioned. The Dark Knight was just you and I.
Yeah, that's true. Back when I was just a guest.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, Elvis and I talked about Interstellar, both of our favorite films.
Yeah.
Obviously, another Chris Nolan film, so
Mm-hmm.
that works for me. And Elvis is a big sci-fi fan. Specifically, too, I think he's a big fan of movies that include concepts that are real world now, like NASA type stuff and space exploration.
Sure.
So, so this question is much more kind of an out there type philosophical type question. So, for those of you who may not be familiar with Interstellar, can't believe there might be out there, but
Yeah.
you might be. It's basically about this former pilot astronaut named Cooper, who the world is dying, and he gets called upon to help lead a mission to find another inhabitable planet for the Earth to relocate to.
Yeah.
So he leaves his family
Mm-hmm.
in order to
His young family, too.
his young family,
Yeah.
in order to take this huge gamble
Yep.
and see if he can save the world.
Yep.
So my question is, would you do the same thing? Like, if our world was dying and there was this slim chance that you had a skill that could save it, but you had to leave
Yeah.
everything behind to do it, would you do it?
This is a really interesting question. It's one of those questions that like you ask on the Story Geeks podcast for sure. Like it's a total Story Geeks question.
Yeah.
I don't. This is sort of a cop out answer, so I apologize in advance. But I'm not sure because like I'd like to think that I would do it.
Same answer.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to think that I would do it. I'd like to think that I would value other people's lives either as better than my own or at least equal to my own. But I think it's hard to say because I think there's a component in when he goes out. It does appear that the world is definitely like for sure going to die.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about it because I was thinking like it's hard to take significant action and make sacrifices for everyone else
Mm-hmm.
when you're not 100% sure that that's true.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
if you said to me like, hey, like Hitler's literally taking over Europe, like do you want to sign up for the war? Or like or even better, like we were just attacked at Pearl Harbor. Like do you want to
Yeah.
sign up to fight the Japanese, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, like our country is in danger because all these other countries are all equally in danger. But like if you take it to the modern day, I was thinking about this in the context of like climate change,
Yeah.
right? And I do believe that climate change is an issue. So I'm not a denier. Like there's like probably most people are probably not deniers these days,
Yeah.
but like so I try to do everything I can to contribute to not making climate change worse.
Right.
So, recycle, reuse, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But if you ask me, like, right now, like, because of climate change, will you get on a rocket? You know what I mean? Like, go up into space. I'd be like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't seem like it's that bad yet.
Yeah.
Like,
It was
seems like
worse in the movie, obviously.
it was worse in the movie for
I mean,
sure.
there was only corn was the only crop that would grow anymore.
Yeah. which is pretty bad.
Yeah.
But so I think that like he's taking a sacrifice for the rest of the world, but it's hard to know what other solutions there could be. Like he seems to be in the know, like, oh, there's nothing else we can do.
Yeah.
So I think that like there's a certain threshold where I think most human beings will say, I'm willing to sacrifice something for the world to be a better place. But that willingness to be a sacrifice gets more and more, you get more and more willing when you know that the consequences are.
Yeah.
And I think that like that's a shame, because like if we all would have, like, let's just say climate change, for example, right? If we all would have bought into that like 10 years ago, like we probably wouldn't be as bad off as we would today, right? So I think that there's a component here where it does seem like he knows, and I want to feel like if I knew, I would be willing to do that as well.
Yeah.
But it's hard because I don't see that right this second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I have the same cop-out answer. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I have kids. And so that's the heartbreaking thing for me when I watch that movie.
Yep.
Like the scene where he's literally watching his kids grow up on a monitor.
Yeah.
And realizing there's this whole life that he missed.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine I'd be able to handle that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like being away from my sons for a day,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah,
let alone
exactly.
like years and years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would like to think that I could be the hero and I would be self-sacrificing in that way. But I just cannot imagine leaving my family behind.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to be a hero, I think two things have to happen. The first thing is you have to live out a value system. Like you have to have a value system, first of all.
Yeah.
Right? Wherein you have empathy for other people and you value their well-being. And then the second thing you have to have is that you actually have to, in that moment, consider the consequences of doing nothing. And then like, but not consider them like for like 5 minutes, like literally for like 20 seconds, be like, oh, I should do something about this.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us, I think if you're sitting here listening to this podcast in your car, or if you're watching on YouTube or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I would totally do that. I'm like, I don't know about that. like maybe some things you would do, but then some things you might not do. It depends on what it is and stuff like that. And so I just feel like, and to also say that you wouldn't do it, I would say no. You might be undervaluing your own heroism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And there's a line in the movie from Matt Damon that sums it up really well. I'm going to butcher the line. I don't remember it exactly, but it's something to the effect of our capacity for compassion does not extend beyond those closest to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
yep.
The people that we love, we would die for the people that we love.
Yes.
But I don't know if he refers to it as impossible. I can't remember exactly, but he says that does not extend to the world at large.
Right.
So,
and we said this was the sequel to The Martian, right?
The sequel to The Martian, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this is after Matt Damon was like, I've exhausted all of my poop potatoes.
Yeah.
Now I just need to get back to Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
And then downsizing would be the third part of that trilogy. What happens to him when he finally gets home and has no money?
Exactly. That's awesome.
Yep. So, interesting question that we just really can't answer.
Yeah. Good to think about, though.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's move on to the first of two times that we're going to talk about the Star Wars prequels here.
Oh, yeah.
So our fourth most downloaded episode of 2017 was The Phantom Menace.
Yep. With Michael Young from That Nerd Soul.
Yep.
Always awesome to have. I should say Nerd Soul. His it's at That Nerd Soul. Always awesome to have Michael on the podcast. You know, I asked one of our listeners who we both know. I asked her, like, who's one of your favorite guests? And she said Michael Young.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
Hard
was
to argue
true
with
for
that.
me, too.
Yeah. That's right.
Because I kept bugging you. I'm like, dude, I want to be on a podcast with Michael. I haven't done it yet. So
That's
we
true,
finally
because
did.
this podcast was recorded with Nathan, Michael, Lisa, and I think.
Yeah, and it was before you and I were co-hosting
That's right.
everything.
That's
so
right, yeah.
I hadn't yet recorded with Michael, which
Yeah.
we've done since we did the Justice League episode. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's a great dude. I like him a lot. So I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Okay.
Well, not really cheat. just because I would rather talk about new Star Wars movies than old ones. So my question here is, now that we've seen 3 new Star Wars movies, so
Yeah.
Force Awakens, Rogue One, and The Last Jedi.
Dude, just listen to that statement. We've seen 3 new Star Wars
I
movies.
know.
How awesome is it to
I
live
know.
in the modern day?
It is awesome. Looking back, how do you see the prequels? And I know this is Phantom Menace, but the prequels at large, how do you see them informing these new movies?
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of prequel haters out there that are like, oh, we don't even need the prequels. Like, we
Right.
would have been fine to go from Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens. And
Yeah. I kind of know your answer already because you said this. I don't remember if it was on the podcast
see
or
if
if
you
it
know
was just
my
when we were
answer.
talking about it, but I totally agree with you. These films make the prequels better. They make
Yeah.
them more relevant, right?
Yeah.
So I think that the prequels set up, and I'll leave Rogue One out of it because I don't know that Rogue One needs the prequels, but I think the prequels set up.
yeah, Rogue One is very A New Hope connected. It doesn't
Exactly.
need much else.
It doesn't need much else.
Yeah.
But The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, the prequels set it up really well. So without the prequels, we would not have the richness that is the fall of the Jedi Council.
Okay,
Which-
yeah, you do know my answer.
Is really interesting storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Like that when we all watched that, we went, why is Star Wars so political? This sucks. But if you don't have the fall of the Jedi, that's right. Why are all these voices so racist?
We went from battles with glowing swords to trade negotiations
Yeah, exactly.
with ambiguously racist characters.
For sure.
It's like, how did
Yeah.
you create a character that offends everybody? But you did it.
Exactly.
Go George Lucas.
No, but I mean, like, I think that if you've seen the prequels and then you watch Luke's character development of his doubt in The Last Jedi,
Yeah,
it makes a whole heck of a lot more sense than it does without the prequels.
totally.
Because you go, oh yeah, we've kind of seen some of this before. We've seen these mistakes happen before, and so it makes sense that Luke would doubt himself in this way. And a lot of people have a lot of issues with Luke, where Luke is in the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But I would say the prequels give us a rationale for how he could get there.
Yeah.
So I like that. I think I really want to see more of a connection. There's a line in The Force Awakens where, and actually, by the time you listen to this, our Force Awakens with Shannon McCarter podcast is probably out already, and we talk about this a little bit. But we talk about the fact that Kylo Ren says to Vader's helmet, he says, "Show me what you showed me
I
before."
still want to know how he got that, by the way.
Yeah, I want to know how I got that too. But he says, "Show me what you showed me before."
Yeah.
And I want to know what that means because I feel like there's a connection between Anakin and Kylo Ren that is not fully explained yet.
Yeah.
And I want to see what that looks like and why that's so interesting.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I just would say, like, unlike Justice League and BVS, where the latter movie, the Justice League, makes BVS kind of like, well, that's kind of weird, right? Like,
Yeah.
why did those things not get finished? I think the prequels actually seem better after you watch The Force Awakens and especially The Last Jedi.
So now we have a trilogy.
We have a trilogy
we're
of
gonna have
trilogies.
a trilogy of trilogies.
We do, yeah. Plus the Rogue One movie.
Wow.
Plus a Christmas special at one point in time. And some Ewok movies.
Oh man, I watched the Christmas special with
You
my son.
did?
Yeah. This past
That's
Christmas.
awesome.
He was so bored. He hated it.
Why are we watching this, Dad?
He's like, "What is this?
Yeah.
Where's Chewbacca?"
He's going to sing in a minute. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much already said everything I was gonna say, except for one thing. But yeah, the adding grayness to the Jedi,
Yeah.
darkening the Jedi up, showing imperfection, makes it so much more interesting.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it hinders. Like, you look at A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back as one of the best examples of good versus evil, black versus white.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't even think it takes away from that, but it gives it somewhere else to go.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
and then I think just the world building. I think I've said before that one thing all of the prequels do amazingly is world building.
This is true. Yeah.
And I think that sort of expanded people's minds to the point where a lot of the new elements that we get in Force Awakens and Last Jedi and stuff, people are okay with.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been 40 years since something new was added to the universe.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think love them or hate them, they added and they helped.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's hard to argue against that.
I agree.
All right.
That crafty George Lucas.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yep. He was smart enough to make something bad and then get out of the way.
But then is it really bad afterwards? You can't tell.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still bad. No, I can't say that. That's not fair to say. I'm still not a prequel fan. But
I'm not either.
I appreciate what they've brought to the trilogy.
Yeah, so. I agree.
Except Jar Jar. That was bad and stupid. And,
there's no excuse for that.
And shame on you, George Lucas. Okay, let's move on to question 5 here, which is on Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 1.
Yep.
Which was an episode that we did with Justin Weaver.
Yeah.
We're
going to see Justin tomorrow.
Yeah, we are.
We're going to do the...
a little glimpse into our personal lives.
Yeah. We're going to do the Secrets of the Empire, the VR experience down in downtown Disney. So that's going to be really fun.
Which, as we record this, just opened like a week ago.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
So
we might even do a review of it or something. We might have to make that happen.
I think he wants us to. I think that was the point of him inviting us.
I know. So. I know. We'll have to do that. Yeah.
But yeah, Justin's a great guy. We've had him on a few times, and just fun to geek out with him.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna take a movie in the past and talk about something that's coming up in the future.
Yeah, it works for me.
We are finally. As we record this, we're about 4 months away from the Guardians meeting the rest of the MCU.
Yep, that's
for the first time in Avengers Infinity War.
Remind me, I have a question for you after this too.
Okay. So what are you looking forward to in regards to the Guardians being in Infinity War? Like, obviously, we'll get some good character interactions.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff there are you looking forward to? Who do you want to see on screen together? What about these worlds kind of colliding excites you?
I really just want to see Rocket Raccoon making fun of the Avengers. Like, that sounds awesome to me.
I want to see him argue with the Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that the Guardians... Now, this is as a person who never read any of the Guardians comics.
Yeah, I never really did either. I started to read a few of them after the first movie came out.
Yeah.
But not a lot.
But, and if you've heard... you can go listen to our top 10 comic book movies podcast,
which we'll talk about later.
Yeah. And if you have listened to that, you know that this movie comes in at number 3 for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love this film. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. And
it's somewhere on my list.
Yeah.
I don't remember where.
It's on there.
Yeah.
We'll go listen to it and see. But I think that the Guardians are the best anti-heroes out there. So I know some say, like, Deadpool. Yeah. Deadpool's a great anti-hero. I think you could even come up with like a grumpy hero like Wolverine and say like, oh, he's a great anti-hero, But I think the Guardians have this element of humanity that neither Deadpool nor Wolverine actually has. Which is crazy because there's only one of them that's actually human, but they've humanized all of these characters.
Yeah.
And the Guardians always get to the heart of the issue by cutting through all the BS. Like, they get straight to the heart of the issue, and it's sort of what's awesome about them.
They stand around and talk about it, and we're okay with it.
It's true.
Like, usually in movies, you make fun of them for furthering the story through exposition and dialogue.
Yep.
And that's the kind of thing that like identifies a bad movie.
Yeah.
But in this, it's great.
Oh yeah. Well, and just think of like, so I kind of contrasted it because I was thinking about this and I was thinking of them as anti-heroes and why they're the best. If you look at what the Avengers would do, and we've seen this in Civil War, we've seen this all the time, like Tony has one opinion and then Cap has this other opinion, and it's like, the UN and then what would the Guardians would look at those two and be basically like, bro, the UN and the US are both corrupt, right? Yeah. Like, they would say like, why are you adhering to whatever system you have in place? Why don't you just do why don't you just do the right thing? Even in light of the fact that oftentimes the whole talking situations are them talking about what is the right thing and making fun of each other for even considering doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But they get through all of the bureaucracy. Like you hear, like basically Cap's always trying to figure out like this legacy of what it means to be an American and be like a just soldier.
Yeah.
And then you have Tony, who's always trying to figure out what it means to kind of like have accountability. And those are great for their characters. But the Guardians come in, and the Guardians are just like, who cares about that stuff? Like, why don't we just do the right thing?
Yeah.
Even at their own peril.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is why I think the Guardians movies work so well, because they're out there in space. They're out in these galaxies that we've never heard of, that don't exist in our world.
Yep.
And how the hell are we supposed to relate to that?
Right.
And in my mind, they do it the same way that Star Wars does it, which is they build a family of characters and they make you care about the family.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter what's surrounding them.
Absolutely.
So, and that's why I'm super excited to see them interact with the Marvel world, specifically Peter and Tony, because I think Peter Quill and Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Because I think they're opposites. Like I think Tony Stark, he's the hero because he's trying to atone. He's trying to change. He's trying to get rid of his guilt from being the warmonger and the legacy of his dad, and he's very dysfunctional in that way. He's doing good things, but he's always still in his head.
Right.
Whereas Peter is not that way at all. Peter has stolen, he's robbed, he's killed people, he's done all these things, and it doesn't affect him because he knows what he cares about and he knows what matters to him.
Yep.
And he's not trapped in this loop of guilt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he is trapped in his own thing, which is, having lost his mother.
Yeah.
And always trying to find family.
Yeah.
So there's just, their value systems are so different and what they care about is so different.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we get to see how those two clash a little bit.
It's funny because as you said that, I just reflected on The Last Jedi for a second again, and I just realized that like basically Tony Stark is like one of those people at the casino who's like selling arms to both sides. I mean, he doesn't sell to both sides anymore, obviously. He's like chosen what he thinks is the right side.
Yeah.
But then you have Peter Quill, who's basically the DJ of the scenario, except that he would never betray people. Like he's out for the family, right? Like he's out, and that's what makes him so great, because he's the one that would sit there and be like, well, Tony's selling arms to these people. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
But he's also the guy who would never betray his friends, like DJ did, right? Or his pseudo friends, but he would never do that.
Yeah.
So.
But it's also a lot of what Peter does and a lot of what the Guardians do. It's weird. They're called the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. And they talk about how they're saving the galaxy.
Right.
But I think their true focus is saving each other and protecting each other.
Yeah. It's like
the Avengers are really a better picture of what it's like to save the galaxy, innocent people around you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It should be interesting. The other thing I want to see is Thor and Drax. That just sounds entertaining to me.
Yeah, exactly. Flex off.
And honestly, Gamora, like, I find her perspective super fascinating. Like, I think she's my favorite character from the Guardians movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because she comes from this whole thing of being raised as a weapon and being raised under the fist of Thanos. And so her perspective on everything is just drastically different than everybody else's.
That's true.
And I kind of want to see how that butts up against the rest of the MCU also.
Yeah, I can see that. So I have a question for you before we move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Do you think at the end of this year, Black Panther will be the better Marvel film, or Infinity War will be the better Marvel film?
Man, I don't know.
I was just having this debate.
You're not even going to give Ant-Man and the Wasp a chance there?
No. No chance. I think
Ant-Man and
Paul
the Wasp
Rudd,
is going to be more important than we think.
Could be. It could be.
It's the first film of Phase 4.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Infinity War caps off Phase 3.
So our listener, Monty, I was talking to him about this the other day, and I'm like, dude, I think that Black Panther is going to be a better film than Infinity War is. personally.
I think it's going to be hard to tell at first. It's going to be a matter of which one holds up better over time.
Yeah.
I'm more excited about Infinity War than I am Black Panther.
I'm more excited about Black Panther.
Part of that is because Infinity War has Cap in it.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite MCU character. I mean,
yeah.
Man, that shot of the 5 of them or whoever it is running at the camera, the one that ends the trailer.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's one of my favorite shots I've seen in any movie ever. I'm
cool.
so excited about that.
Yeah. You know me, I always like the more of the individual story as opposed to the group story.
Yeah.
So that plays into it for why I think Black Panther's gonna be so cool. But the other thing is too, like, I don't have a lot of history with Black Panther.
Yeah.
But man, does that look cool, and man, does it look like it's done well. And I am a big fan of not all, but a lot of Kendrick Lamar's music, and so the fact that he's on the doing the soundtrack for it, just I don't know, just looks super cool to me.
I think it looks awesome too. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a new voice to the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
And to superhero films in general.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be really cool in that respect. It feels to me, we'll see if it holds up like this, but it feels to me kind of like I felt when I saw trailers for The Winter Soldier.
Oh, yeah.
Because at that point, I didn't care as much about Cap. And then seeing the trailers for The Winter Soldier, I was just like, oh my gosh, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And I feel the same way about Black Panther.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm excited for both. I don't know which one will be better. That's too hard to say.
Yeah, it's hard to predict. I'm just really looking forward to Black Panther, so we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Batman some more. Let's go back to Chris Nolan and Batman and talk about The Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
Which is our 6th most downloaded podcast of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Was that one also just you and me?
Yeah, pretty sure it was, yeah.
We monopolize all the Batman talk. Fair enough.
Yeah, because you were basically my exclusive Batman guest.
I was your Chris Nolan guest.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. You were my Batman guest, and then when I said, "Hey, why don't you do some podcasts on your own?" You're like, "Chris Nolan is what all these.
Yeah.
Is what all you're talking about."
There's more Chris Nolan movies. We haven't done them all.
Exactly.
Okay, so for this one, we're gonna dream a little bit.
Yeah. This is like a make it better. This is gonna make it better question.
A little bit.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
It is kind of. Because a lot of people would say that The Dark Knight Rises is the weakest of Chris Nolan's Batman trilogy.
I would say that.
I would say that too. I say that with a huge grain of salt.
Sure.
Because I love all 3 of those movies to death.
Yeah. Same here.
But if you're going to compare it to the other 2, it's not quite as good.
Right.
So let's see if we can fix that. So
sounds good to me.
We're going to talk about how would we, if we were tasked with the task of following up The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
How would you do it? What would your Dark Knight Rises look like?
Uh-huh.
And to make it even more interesting, let's pretend that we hadn't lost Heath Ledger. So he's still
crazy.
Available for the 3rd film.
So there's some things that I want to, first of all, just keep.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. So one of those things is I also like that Batman is older. Yeah. And sort of decrepit in many regards. His body's just giving out on him. I really like that aspect of it. So I'm going to keep that. But we're going to start at Joker's funeral.
Interesting.
That's how the movie's going to start.
Somebody bothered to have a funeral for the Joker.
Yeah. Well, and it's probably only attended by like Batman and Alfred, right?
Balfred. How have we not thought about that before?
I don't know if I like it.
It feels more like Affleck and Irons.
It does, yeah. If you're gonna have that, no worries. So we're at Joker's funeral, and he's the last great criminal, but now he's dead, and Gotham City is basically like crime free. Okay. And Bruce doesn't feel like he has a place there anymore, which is sort of similar to what they're doing in the Dark Knight Rises already too, but for kind of different reasons. So Bruce is then mourning the loss of his nemesis almost as much as he is the loss of the fact that he can't be really Batman anymore and he's getting old.
So you're kind of bringing some Lego Batman movie elements into this.
Yes. He's going to have a tantrum and go like, no.
Where's my lobster thermidor?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to do that. That's my favorite line.
I hate everything you just said.
That's the best. All right. So as soon as Bruce hangs up his suit, a new crime wave breaks out. So again, sort of similar to the Dark Knight Rises, but here's where it kind of changes. Mm-hmm. It's all the heavy hitters from back in the day that are causing this crime spree, right? So like it's Two-Face and Bane and Scarecrow, Penguin, like we're adding all of them in. Okay. And it's like, whoa, what is going on? Because like, they're all should be either dead or like really old and incarcerated. And then as Bruce goes back to fighting them, and this is again a Bruce that's like having to use like augmented suits, like he does in what is it what's the name of the comic?
Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises. Oh yeah, exactly.
No, sorry, Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns. That's the one.
Major Batman failure right there. I apologize.
No, that's a good.
I corrected it.
It's not so much a Batman failure. It's just the
Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns. So this is the kind of Batman we're dealing with. But he's realizing that as he fights these characters that there's something that's not quite right about them. And then this is when we learn that the Joker actually had faked his death. He was not actually dead. And this whole time, he's been reviving dead criminals with the Lazarus Pit and unleashing them on Gotham.
They're Joker zombies?
They're Joker zombies. And so he's basically unleashing them on zombies. And then what Batman has to do is call on the next generation for help. So he has to go recruit Dick Grayson, and maybe there's even an indication that he had been working with Dick Grayson, and Dick Grayson was like, look, like, because the whole Nightwing thing, like, we can't keep doing this, Bruce, you're getting too old and there's not that much crime anymore, like, give it up, right?
Do we get a zombie Rachel? Did he resurrect
Rachel?
That
would be crazy. I think we have to get a zombie Rachel, because that would just like devastate him.
I guess she wouldn't really have much of a body to resurrect, though, considering the way he killed her.
That's true. It's a really creepy Rachel.
Thought.
It's just Rachel's hand. No, but like Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, Tim Drake, even they're all back. And Batman's
yourself into a corner. I'm gonna ask you a follow-up question.
Well, I'm sure I am, but so in the end, Bruce has to. So in the movie, in The Dark Knight Rises, we kind of see Bruce sacrifice himself, right? But in this film, I actually want Bruce and the Joker to both actually fully die.
Okay.
And then Dick Grayson would then take up the mantle as Batman, closing it out.
Okay, you ready for the corner you backed yourself into?
Yeah. Why not?
If you're going to talk about Barbara Gordon, Dick Grayson, and Tim Drake,
yeah,
I want to know who's going to play them.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I think the casting of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, if that were Dick Grayson, fantastic. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's amazing.
For the majority of that movie, that's where I thought they were going.
I did too, yeah, exactly.
And he kind of is.
He pretty much is.
Sort of.
He just isn't a circus performer.
Yeah. He's not named Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
He's kind of that character.
Barbara Gordon's probably the most difficult one. Because that one's a tough one, because I'm not as familiar with all of the young actresses that are out there, because there's lots of good ones out there right now. Mm-hmm. That one's a hard one. Like, whoever the young Kate Winslet is, that's who I would make Barbara. I don't know who that is, but that's what I would make Barbara Gordon.
All right.
And then Tim Drake. I feel like Tim Drake has got, and this Tim Drake I think has to be sort of edgier, like almost like a Jason Toddy, Tim Drake. And so for someone
really
like
proud
that,
of you for knowing the names of all the Robins, by the
way. Yeah, well, I haven't even brought up Damien. Oh my gosh, he's not in this movie. That's just the thing.
He shouldn't be.
Yeah. So Tim Drake, who would play Tim Drake? Somebody with a little more edge to him. You know, honestly, who would be really fun to play a Tim Drake, even though they're not that edgy, but I'd love to see him tackle something like that, would be Tom Holland. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
So somebody in that kind of vein. I think Ezra Miller would have been a good candidate for someone like that as well. But now he's the Flash. That's kind of awkward.
Well, I've thought a lot about this.
Yeah.
I have answers.
Obviously, that's like my on the spot. Hey, what do
I
you
have
got?
answers to these questions.
Okay.
I can give you the correct answers.
Let's hear it.
So Tim Drake, I actually haven't thought a whole lot about, but the first thing that comes to my mind, and I don't know the actor's name. I can't think of it. I think it's Ryan something. But when Batman v Superman was still being made,
Yeah.
and we hadn't seen much yet, other than maybe the one black and white image of Batman standing next to the Batmobile.
Yeah.
There was an actor who has done, I don't know if he's a Disney Channel actor or a young actor. He's a teenager who is also like a decent martial artist and stuntman and super fit, similar to Tom Holland. I don't know if he's a dancer, but he released a video online on his YouTube account or whatever, which was basically his audition to play Robin.
Oh, nice.
And I think he was thinking Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
But he literally said, I think he said Ben Affleck's name in it. Like,
really?
It was his attempt to get cast as Robin. I think he would make a good Tim Drake. I can't tell you his name. You're looking it up right now.
I'm looking it up to see if I can find it, yeah.
I feel like it was Ryan something, but
I think I found it.
That YouTube video is out there. Did you find it?
It looks like this is it, and it's just a matter of when. Oh, Ryan Potter.
I see. I got
There
the
you
first
go.
name right.
Yeah, you had
it. Ryan Potter.
Oh, he's the voice role for Disney's Big Hero 6.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
He played the big
Hero. He's Hero.
He's Hero. Okay.
Hiro Hamada.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry. He's
the brother.
He's in the TV series.
Oh, he's not in the movie.
No, not in the movie.
Okay. We're way off topic, but
yeah.
That just came to my mind that he could be a good Tim Drake. But Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson, I've thought a lot about.
Okay.
And both of those characters are coming in the movies, hopefully.
Oh, really?
They're both in the works. There's a Nightwing movie and a Batgirl movie
that's
in
true,
the works.
Yeah, that's right.
So my picks for those, for Barbara Gordon,
Uh-huh.
Saoirse Ronan.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I saw people talking about that.
Yeah, I think she'd be amazing. And then for me, there's only one pick for Nightwing, and it's got to be Stephen Yeun from The Walking Dead.
Oh, that would be amazing, yeah.
I just think he...
Yeah.
I don't care that he's not white per se. The race doesn't matter to me.
Who cares?
My second choice would actually be Dev Patel from...
Oh, that's a good choice too, yeah.
From Lion and Slumdog Millionaire.
Although he's getting a little old now.
Yeah, but if he plays Nightwing, Nightwing's older.
That's true.
And then even like Riz Ahmed from Rogue One. He was the pilot in Rogue One.
Yeah.
What I like about these guys, this is way off topic, but I don't even care because it's my favorite character. So what I like about these guys is they all have a vibe that I think Nightwing should have. That I think Dick Grayson should have, which is, he's had the benefit of watching Batman, and so he's learned from Batman and learned what not to do from Batman.
Right.
So he has a gravity about him, but he's also optimistic.
Yes.
And he has kind of this quiet intensity and quiet optimism.
Yep.
And a certain nobility.
Yep.
And he's a leader, and he's somebody you want to be friends with.
Yep.
And he has a goodness to him, but is still tough.
Yeah.
And I feel
Which
like
is perfect.
those guys
The
would
Stephen
totally
Yeun is like perfect for that.
Yeah, I mean, when I watched Glenn on The Walking Dead, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm watching Dick Grayson. Like,
Yeah,
it really
yeah,
felt
yeah.
that way.
Yep. That's great.
What were we talking about?
Oh, we were just casting. So we're on
the
question
Dark Knight
7 now.
Rises.
Yeah. Dark Knight Rises. But you didn't say what you would change about what you would do about it.
Okay, so here's my Dark Knight Rises. I would keep a lot of stuff too. I think I'd keep more than you did.
Oh, okay.
So I would also keep the time jump.
Yeah.
I
Time
think
jump
it's
is
8
positive.
years.
Yep.
It could be more than that. Could be less. Doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
the
I think it's 8. I'm almost positive you're right about 8.
it's 8. Yeah. The important thing about it is, in order for the Dark Knight Rises to make sense,
Mm-hmm.
the efforts to clean up Gotham in the Dark Knight have to have worked.
Yes.
There has to be success to that.
Yep.
I still want that to be true.
Okay.
So that'll still carry through.
All right.
And I'm in the same place as you. Batman hasn't been seen for years.
Great.
He, he's got issues. He's decrepit.
Yeah.
He needs augmentation ultimately to help him. And I'd keep other things too. I would keep Bane. Same motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Same story. Even connected to the League of Shadows is fine.
Sure.
But his intent to tear down Gotham, same thing.
Yeah.
I would keep Blake
Yeah.
as Blake.
Okay.
I love that character.
Yeah.
And so I would keep that too. What I would not keep is Talia.
Sure.
I would eliminate her altogether. Though I really like that comic character, I don't think we need her. I think Bane's connection to the League of Shadows is enough. I don't think we need Ra's al Ghul's daughter in the movie.
Right.
So, but I do think Bane needs a cohort. He needs another character working with him.
Right.
That character is going to be the Joker. So, for
nice.
me, Bane is going to come in to Gotham, and one of his first moves is going to be to bust the Joker out of Arkham. So that he can use him.
Okay.
Because what's he trying to do? He's trying to destabilize Gotham.
Yeah.
And who's better at that kind of stuff than the Joker?
Yeah, exactly.
But obviously the two of them are not going to get along very well. So we're going to get to see that. And ultimately, the Joker is going to... Oh, another reason that Bane will bring the Joker into it is because I think he should anticipate Batman returning.
Okay, sure.
I think he believes that once he makes his presence known in Gotham, Batman will resurface.
Yeah.
So the Joker is sort of an insurance policy against that too.
Okay.
But ultimately for me, the Joker will kill Bane.
Oh, okay. I like that
And
twist.
he will,
Yeah.
because he can't tolerate the planners, right? He wants everything to be chaos.
Yeah.
So ultimately, he will take Bane out.
Nice.
And Batman's final act, or Bruce's final act as Batman, will be defeating the Joker once and for all.
Nice.
And that is what will, overcoming that, beating him, is what will give him the sense that, okay, I can stop being Batman. I can let Blake take over and move forward.
Nice.
And there will be no love story per se. We can still have Catwoman. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that element.
Yeah, I like that too.
But I also like the subtlety of their development, of their relationship development.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want it to be any more heavy-handed than it is.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned Catwoman, and that made me think of, I was just talking, I did a television interview. It'll be on YouTube. I'll link to it by the time this comes out, I'll probably be able to link to it. But I saw one of my friends there, who's also a listener of the podcast, Fuzz. And Fuzz, he had been reading Sheriff of Babylon, like Michael Gordon and I talked about on the podcast. But he also had been reading Tom King's run in Batman, and was raving about it. So, and he was talking about how there's the one setup where you have an older Batman and an older Selena Kyle kind of reflecting upon. And I was like, that is so cool. So we need to try to talk about that at some point in time.
In the comics, Batman and Selena Kyle are now engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
But no, Tom King's, his first issue that he wrote of Batman, it was this story featuring these characters, Gotham and Gotham Girl.
Okay.
I think were their names.
All right.
But they're like new superheroes in Gotham. But it's darker and twisted than that, and there's a whole thing behind it.
Okay.
But his first issue was sort of his chance to reintroduce Batman, his version of Batman. It's one of the best single comic book issues I've ever read in my entire life.
Really?
It is so good.
Oh, I'm gonna have to read that now.
Like it features a moment where Batman is literally, without hesitating, willing to let himself die to save Gotham.
Wow.
It doesn't happen, but
yeah,
it's so good.
That's cool.
And as a result, I've gobbled up everything I could from Tom King.
Yeah.
He's just so good. So
he's amazing. We should interview him on the podcast.
Oh, yes. Let's do
If
that,
you know
please.
Tom King, tell him to be on our podcast.
Hook us up. Okay, question 7. Now we're going to go back to Star Wars.
All right.
We'll talk prequels again. So this is the only movie that had a repeat appearance on our list of...
This is the one that
Top
showed up.
10
Part
most
1, Part 2
downloaded.
both
Yeah.
showed up. This was Mark Herleman and Seth Fontaine with Nathan and I.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people feel like this is the best prequel.
Yeah, I think it's the best prequel.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think that's largely the opinion.
It's also, upon rewatch now, it's actually very good. Whereas like some of the other prequels, like because it has the least issues with it. Like when you watched it in the context of the prequels and you thought like there's not going to be any more Star Wars films,
Yeah.
you were like, well, yeah, it's good, but the two others that came, like we talk about a trilogy,
Yeah.
but now if you look at like no, we have, what is it? We have 9 now.
Yeah.
We have 9 Star Wars films in the cinematic versions, and now it's a really good entry.
Yeah.
So
my question again, I'm going to use the past to talk about the present. Let's talk about similarities and differences between Anakin in the prequels and Kylo Ren.
You start us out this time. I want to hear yours first.
Okay. Well, they are both completely dysfunctional. They're both emo whiners who can't control themselves.
Yeah. Both have long hair too.
On a deeper level, they're both suffering from a failed relationship with a mentor or with their master.
Yep.
So, I mean, obviously, we see reflections of Anakin in Kylo.
Yes.
Which is, I think, is necessary.
Yep.
Because we need a villain who feels like a Star Wars villain. We need some familiarity in there, but we need something new.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons that Kylo is my favorite Star Wars character, is because I think that balance is perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Differences, I do think Kylo is a more interesting character than Anakin was. Mostly because we don't know where he's headed. We don't know where Kylo will be after Episode 9.
Yeah.
We knew Anakin was going to become Vader.
Right.
Maybe some viewers didn't. Some of the newer viewers.
Yeah, if you didn't watch
I think we've talked to people who
trilogy.
didn't know that
Right.
Anakin was going to be Vader.
Right.
But we knew.
Yeah, we knew that was going to happen, yeah.
So Kylo's just more interesting because I don't know
if
where
you
he's
saw
headed.
the poster.
I know. The shadow.
The shadow one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Like, that kid's got a weird shadow.
Yeah. His shadow looks like a big monster.
Exactly. Anyways.
And then I just think Kylo is more complex, which I think is just the product of, J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson's writing versus George Lucas's writing.
And I would say their direction of Adam Driver. Because Hayden Christensen is actually a phenomenal actor, but the lines he's given, the direction he's given, I mean, that's suffered. That's not. I don't think that's you. I don't think you can put that on Hayden Christensen. Yeah, personally, but.
And I'll say too, when they cast Hayden Christensen, I thought, oh, he looks good. He looks the part.
Yep.
Oh, this sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whereas when I saw that Adam Driver was going to be in a Star Wars movie, I was like, really? That guy? Like, I hadn't seen anything that he did really.
Right.
I don't watch, what is it, Girls? Is that the show on HBO Girls, that he's on? I've never seen that. I hadn't really seen any of his movies. So I'm just like, I don't know a whole lot about this guy, but he didn't look like a cool Star Wars villain to me. And I remember being a little bit skeptical about it.
Right.
But it was completely the other experience. I was like, oh my gosh, this dude's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is so good.
Exactly.
So.
Well, I had most of the same things you had. I obviously emotionally unstable.
Yeah.
Also conflicted with their own behavior. So I thought this was interesting. Like,
yeah,
both of them are struggling with this idea that they're pulled both to the light side and the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
And Anakin's journey is not the same because like Kylo is like trying to be dark side and is being pulled to the light side, whereas Anakin is like trying to be light side but is pulled to the dark side.
Yeah.
But they're by far the grayest, or they're by far the two characters that struggle with it the most.
Yeah. Both terrible with women too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, Kylo made an attempt. He got all buff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, not good. Yeah, the heroes in Star Wars really not good with women. like Luke's best effort is with his sister.
That's true.
So it's not good. It's not good, man.
That's true.
That's not good.
Yeah.
The only other things I had was like they're definitely misguided and manipulated by someone who's more powerful than they are, or at least not necessarily more powerful, but like more able to manipulate them and influence them in a way that they can't really deal with very well.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference for me is that I feel like Kylo feels like he was forced into his position more, because like it feels like Kylo was searching for acceptance from everyone and just kept getting rejected. Yeah. And then finally Snoke's like, I'll accept you. What's up? Yeah. Whereas like I feel like Anakin was accepted by people, but he was like, I reject the way that you're accepting me. Yeah. I want to do my thing. Yeah. I don't feel like Kylo was ever like that.
It's like, you're all holding me back.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think so I actually think that Kylo seems like his motivations are actually more pure than Anakin's motivations, even though they're both turning to the dark side. It's like if you have a friend and you're like, your friend has a really messed up viewpoint about something, but you're like, I know this person isn't a bad person. I just don't understand why they have this messed up view. How did they get to this viewpoint? And it's more like with Kylo, it's like, oh, because of all the emotional pain that they've endured. Like their experiences have led them here. Yeah. As opposed to somebody else who's like, I'm just gonna be a total jerk because I want to be. That seems more like Anakin, right? Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, those two characters are definitely playing off one another.
Who do you like better?
Oh, I think Kylo's a fantastic character. Yeah. I mean, so I've never thought of this before, and I think that this is going to hold up after I think about this more. But I think that the sequel trilogy characters are the best characters. Yeah. My favorite characters are Han Solo.
Even the versions of the original characters in the sequel trilogies.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, it's true. It's pretty good. I mean, yeah. I think Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill are awesome. Yeah. But my three favorite characters are still Han Solo, Rey, and Boba Fett. And Boba Fett's like, he's barely even in the whole thing. And by the way, when I say Boba Fett, that does not include kid Boba Fett from the prequels, because that really bugs me. But so it's
the most evil kid in history. He's like Damien from The Omen.
It's just like, dude, just get that kid a haircut and put him in a cage somewhere. I mean, come on. No, I don't advocate for putting kids in cages. That's a joke. But you gotta be careful these days. People will think you're serious about stuff. But I mean, you take a look at like Poe Dameron and how well-rounded his character is. Yeah. And actually, I thought that his character in The Last Jedi was great. I love his character. Yeah. We're going to do a whole podcast about The Last Jedi quickly following this one. Or actually, you might hear that one first. So I'm not going to go deep into that. But yeah, I think that, I mean, Rey's character is awesome. Kylo's character is awesome. And again, that's just really good filmmaking. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. Okay. Here is our first chance to talk about television.
Yes. Yeah, we haven't talked a lot about television.
No, we haven't done a lot of episodes about television.
No, there's some Luke Cage episodes, and then there's some Stranger Things episodes, and that's pretty much it.
So Stranger Things, specifically, I don't remember which episode specifically this comes from, because you did a few Stranger Things episodes.
I think I got through like 6 episodes, and then just like...
yeah, like, you were going episode by episode.
I didn't know we did finish it. We did finish it. I think we did a finishing episode of it. I think I had Karina Fabian and Isaac Johnson on.
Hang on, let me check. Oh, Stranger Things Season 1.
Yeah, so we did a recap episode. So that recap episode was the most downloaded. So that's cool.
And it says String Theory. So I'm guessing Sam Wilbaum was the guest on that one.
No, I think it was Karina. I think it was Karina Fabian and Isaac Johnson, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But Karina's husband is an aerospace engineer, basically. Okay. And she writes science fiction. So, and Isaac's an actor. So we were into it. Like we were talking about, all that kind of crazy stuff.
Okay. Well, again, I'm going to use the past to talk about the present. So
yeah. No, I like it.
So my question is really more about Stranger Things Season 2.
Yeah.
which we haven't done any episodes on
Right.
and haven't really taken any time to talk about. And it's pretty much just let's do a quick review
Yeah.
of season 2.
Yeah.
Like, how did you enjoy season 2? How do you think it stood up against season 1?
Yeah.
What do you think about where they took the story?
So, and this is probably where we're gonna have the biggest difference probably in this particular topic.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I think season 1 is a 9.5 out of 10. I love season 1. I think season 1 is incredibly well done. I think season 2 is more like a 7.5 out of 10. And when I say 7.5, like a bunch of people like freak out. Like when I say 7.5 out of 10, and then I start to describe what a 7.5 out of 10 looks like to me, which includes some criticisms. It's what I gave The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And then everyone starts freaking out on me like I hate it. I'm like, no, I really like it. Like 7.5 out of 10 is really good. If I didn't like it, it'd be like a 4. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying for me it had some issues here and there. So some of those issues for me with season 2 were I thought that the other gifted kids storyline was completely mismanaged.
That was a weird detour. It felt like they were trying to set up a spinoff.
I didn't hate the idea of it. So let me clear that up. I didn't hate the idea of it. It's a little derivative of a lot of other shows. Like Fringe was like that. I mean, there's like lots of other shows are like that.
Fringe. We've got to talk about Fringe sometime.
We should probably talk about Fringe.
Man.
Yeah.
I love that show.
But I did not like the execution of it. And I thought that episode 7, the one deviation from the main storyline, was that I would give that like a 3 or 4 out of 10. Like that episode is truly horrible.
I thought the episode was good. I just didn't think it fit.
It didn't really fit. No.
And it would have fit better if they would have worked in, what was it, 8? Was that?
Yeah, I think it was 8. Yeah.
If they would have worked her in to the larger story.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean by mismanaged.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't that was yes, it's a derivative, but that doesn't mean anything. You can still have a really good story about that.
Yeah.
The problem was it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it was the right story. I think that the mysterious aspect of season 1 was great. I'm not a big fan of horror.
Yeah.
And that season 1 like pushed my boundaries with like, I don't know if I can keep watching this, dude, because this looks like it could be super scary at any point in time. But I think like season 2 had the opposite problem where it just like said like, here's the monster. And like, oh, that's the monster? I mean, there's no mystery about what it is. It's like, that's the monster.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like kind of like an old school rule. Like, just don't do that. Like, it's better not to show it and to kind of keep teasing it. So I think that reveal was too fast. And then my final complaint is that, and again, I love the show. The actors are amazing. The actors, I watch them read the phone book almost. Like they're all great. They're all phenomenal. And the new actors, I liked all the new characters too. I know some people didn't like the new Steve Harrington, like the bully guy.
Well, you're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to like him.
Yeah,
he plays it great, and he has emotional complexity because the whole reason he's a bully is because he got bullied by his dad or stepdad or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the fact that they included those scenes so that we can get a picture for why he is the way he is, that was great.
Yeah.
That's excellent filmmaking. So my last complaint. So I just wanted to say those positive things just so people don't think I'm complaining about it, because this is still one of my favorite shows of the year.
Yeah.
But I thought that season 1 had this awesome tie-in to Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And that theme was carried throughout the entire everything. It was like, how do we compare? Like, well, how do we Demigorgon? It's like the Demigorgon. And then it's like, wait, how do we compare this? Oh, it's like the Upside Down.
Yeah.
That was super cool. It's almost like they said, we're just going to take D&D rules and then add those to like real life experience.
Yeah.
Really fun. I think season 2 sort of tried to make it about an arcade game comparison at first. And they're like,
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, Ghostbusters. And they're like, arcade games, Ghostbusters. And they didn't quite get that. And I thought that the Duffer Brothers did a really cool thing in the final episodes. Because if you look at who's credited at doing the final episodes, the last 2 episodes, I believe it is, it's the Duffer Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And they went right back to D&D. Yeah. And they started comparing it to D&D again.
Because the name they use for the monster is from D&D.
Yeah.
Also.
Exactly. And they were kind of comparing it like, oh, this is where...
What is it? I forget what it is. The Mind Flayer? Is that what it is?
Mind Flayer. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, good pickup. I forgot about that. But I think that metaphor is so strong that I'm like, you should just use that metaphor throughout season 1 and then continue it forward in season 2. So really great season of TV, but I still prefer season 1. But I think you prefer season 2.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know. I'm not sure I can say which one I prefer because they have very different aspects.
Yeah.
Season 1 is like a horror show,
Yes.
which again, I'm with you. That's not my genre,
Yeah.
but I do like suspense and I do like to be
Yes.
creeped out if it's not going to cross like a line of goriness
Yeah. Yeah.
or torture
Right.
or Satanism or exorcisms and stuff like that. Like that kind of
Right.
stuff. You know, I don't, that doesn't entertain me, but
Yeah.
I like to be creeped out. I like ghost stories. I like scary stories.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and for me, season 1 was the perfect horror, perfect balance.
I totally agree. It was a great balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then season 2, kind of more of a superhero show.
Yep.
Really. You
Yep.
know,
Exactly.
it's like, it's more Goonies-esque, you
Yes.
know, it's like, and they're coming together as a unit,
Yep.
which I really enjoy. I love the fact that they took the guy you hate from season 1
Yeah. Exactly.
and made him like a fan favorite
Yeah.
in season 2.
Oh yeah, you're like Steve Harrington's the best.
How
dude.
did they pull that off? Like that's so
Right.
impressive.
Yeah. Exactly.
I even remember seeing him in the the first episode of season 2, and I'm like, oh, he's still there. Do we still need him?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, and yeah, we do. He's
Yeah.
gonna be freaking cool. You just sit and wait.
Yeah. 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 Totally.
And then I loved the relationship between Hopper and Eleven.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was super cool.
That was pretty well. Yeah.
I will say, I think they squandered 11 in the long run.
I agree.
The final episode, amazing, like
Yes.
super cool.
Yes.
Should have done that sooner,
Yeah.
or should have had her back with the group and interacting sooner.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Now I think this time around they have the benefit of knowing pretty well that Netflix is going to say, hey, we want a third season, you know.
Totally.
So they can set some stuff up for where they're going in the future.
Yep.
But so I don't know which one I liked better.
Okay.
Season 2 might speak a little bit more to what I enjoy in stories
Sure.
because it's more about heroes and family than it is
Yeah.
about horror.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. If they worked Legacy in there, it'd be a
legacy, man. Well, okay, so that brings something up.
Yeah.
There could be some legacy in there because I know a lot of people are theorizing this, and I'm wondering if it's true. So I'll ask you:
Yeah.
do you think 11 could be Hopper's daughter?
Oh. I've never thought of that before. I kind of
Really? That never occurred to you?
never occurred to me. No.
That occurred to me through the entire series. Even
Oh,
in
really?
the first season.
Interesting.
I'm like, is that his daughter?
the actual one that died, not like a different daughter.
The actual
Yeah.
daughter that died, yeah.
I think actually it's I think it's more powerful if she's not,
Yeah.
because I like this
If
idea.
he's compensating. in a way,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Because I think
Or not compensating, but using her as a proxy.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think that that's more interesting because that's, to me, that's more like real life. Like that's real life is messy. Like you said, the relationship between them is so good, and the reason it's so good is because you're watching Hopper and you're like, dude, stop being such an asshole, right? But you also know that he's trying to do that because he does not want any harm to come to her.
Yeah.
And that's his rationale for being that way.
Yeah.
And she doesn't see it that way. She just sees him being a total jerk, and she's like, why are you being such a jerk? And so there's this constant tension of like, they both care so much about one another, but they can't show it.
Yeah.
And I think that makes that really, really cool. And I think the reason he feels that way is because he lost his daughter. And if it was all of a sudden revealed that she was his daughter, it doesn't take that away, but I think it, in some ways, it cheapens it.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that she's like a surrogate daughter as opposed to his actual daughter. So I hadn't thought of that before, but that's what I would prefer.
Yeah. I could go either way. I mean, I think that's where it actually is headed.
Yeah.
But if we were to find out that she actually is his daughter and he just hadn't said anything about it,
Yeah.
that there's some really interesting stuff there too.
Yeah.
I do think it's very likely that James Mangold is sitting back watching Stranger Things season 2 going, oh, that's what Logan should have been like.
Yeah. Yes.
I know you're not going to argue with that.
I'm not going to argue with that.
Yeah.
I still haven't done my Logan video
You're
or
never
podcast.
going to.
I got to do
That's
it.
the carrot you're going to dangle over the world forever, and it's never going to happen.
Well, see, now everyone's putting it on their like best movies of 2017 list, and it just every time I see it, I'm like, no.
Now
like,
you can stomp
it's
all
awesome,
over it.
but
Yeah.
no, I still have this issue. But
So when we do the second Story Geeks Movie Awards, that's when you're going to bash on Logan.
I'm gonna have all
We're
my
gonna be like,
all my ammunition.
yeah.
This
We're
is
going to take
why
a
it can't
1-hour
be.
detour. We'll come back to everything else. We're going to talk about Logan.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're all going to look at you awkwardly.
Yeah. Why is he doing this?
Oh, boy.
No one wants to hear this.
Okay, last question. Our last most downloaded episode was our top 10 comic book movies of all time episode.
Yep.
It would have been really cool if we would have both gone back and found our top 10 lists from that episode. I don't think either of us did that, so
No.
that's okay. We don't have to talk about that. But in the larger sense,
Yeah.
a lot of people have been talking about for years about superhero fatigue
Yes.
in movies.
Yes.
Like, there's going to be a point where no one's going to care about superhero movies anymore,
Right.
and we're going to be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's going to be like, well, what the hell happened there?
Right.
But that hasn't happened yet.
No.
It's been, I mean, if you go all the way back to Batman Begins,
Yep.
even the first X-Men movie,
Yep.
it's been almost 20 years of
That's crazy.
superhero movies
Yeah.
getting pumped out with increasing regularity.
Yep.
To the point where now we get 6, 7, 8 of them a year.
Which is insane. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question, why do you think it keeps thriving? Like, why do we love these movies so much? And then how much life do you think it has left in it? When do you think we will hit superhero fatigue?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer the second question first.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe we are currently in 2017, 2018 at the pinnacle.
Okay.
So it would be really hard for me to imagine that we would see even more superhero films
Yeah.
than we have now.
Yeah.
Because the only way to do
That would
that,
probably be bad.
yeah, the only way to really do it truly would be to have new superheroes.
Yeah.
Now,
Which
I will-
people don't seem to want.
No,
Interestingly.
people don't seem to want it, except that there are these scenarios wherein, like, actually, I'm pretty excited about what M. Night Shyamalan is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there are cases where a really good story could change some of that. But I do believe that we're at the pinnacle, and I don't think.
And we do have Dominic Toretto. So
True, yeah, he's pretty much a superhero.
yeah.
I think that the genre will always be around. I sort of equate it to war movies in a way, or independent films. War movies and independent films have never gone away,
Yeah.
but there have been heydays for both war movies and independent. I think we're just
Kind of
in
ebbed and flowed.
yeah, we're in the heyday of superhero movies. Our
Yeah.
culture is accepting that as one of the best forms of entertainment. I think that just like independent films and war movies, like you say, ebb and flow. So there will be like, this is what tends to happen. The culture has we can't get enough of this.
Yeah.
And then there is a fatigue, but the core fans are always still there.
Yeah.
You and I are going to like superhero movies.
Professional wrestling is still very popular.
Exactly. Another great example. Ebbs and flows all the time, though, right? So, like, I used to watch professional wrestling. I don't watch professional wrestling anymore.
Yeah.
But a lot of people still do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking of the days of, like, when you had Saving Private Ryan, The Thin Red Line.
Yeah.
Like, there was just war movie after war movie after war movie. We still had Dunkirk, and Dunkirk was amazing. And I went and saw Dunkirk, and I was excited about it.
Yeah.
But there weren't 10 war movies made last year.
Right.
So I think that we'll always have a marketplace for superhero films. But some of the studios may shift or pivot to what people are more like. The mass market is more likely to buy tickets for.
Yeah.
And I don't think that superhero movies will be like 8 a year anymore. I think we might get like 1 or 2 a year. But we'll still have sci-fi, we'll still have fantasy, and those films will go in and out of popularity as well.
Yeah.
So we'll always have geek stuff. We'll always have geek stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I think that one of the things that the superhero films are doing that is both good and bad is that it used to be like, if you looked at, I think, superhero stuff in the 1960s, this answers your first question. This gets to your first question, like why we like them so much.
Yeah.
I think that those films gave us something to strive for, right? It was like, oh, what if we were superheroes and tried to make the world a better place? Like, we should try to make the world a better place. Let's fight for a better tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Like that. But I think as that marketplace and that genre of comic books got more mature, we started to see a lot of other stories coming out that were superhero stories, but they were being deconstructed.
Yeah.
Like Watchmen actually is, and Alan Moore talks about this sometimes, is he basically Alan Moore was saying like, are they really the people we should be idolizing?
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think that made, and then you see like Deadpool or Kick-Ass or some films like that. They even offer the question of, is evil really black and white?
Yeah.
Because you're saying it is in these films, but is it really?
Yeah.
And I think that that's great because it gives us so many different types of stories. We don't have to go watch the same story over and over again. We get to see these films where they're very nuanced and they can be even very dark. And I still think The Dark Knight's the best, and it has a pretty clear distinction between what good and evil looks like.
Yeah.
But the characters aren't necessarily always doing good or always doing evil. They're fighting for good and then trying to figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, they're all flawed.
Exactly. So I don't think, I think that when superhero films started out, it was this kind of escapism of like, what would it look like for me to be a superhero?
Yeah.
Now I think it's not like that anymore. Now it's really nuanced where you can pick any kind of movie and make it a superhero movie and make it a good superhero movie. So that's kind of my take.
And when you talk about flawed characters being a good thing,
Yeah.
you kind of start to realize how important Stan Lee is to superhero storytelling.
Yeah.
Because he was the one that came along with all the Marvel characters and said, we need, we're none of us are Superman.
Right.
None of us are Batman.
Right.
We can't relate to these people. We need characters who have flaws.
Yep.
So we had Tony Stark, whose heart was on the verge of failing.
Yep.
And you had Peter Parker, who is a social outcast and a total nerd in real life. And all of those characters had a very specific flaw.
Yes.
And that was his big deal.
Yep.
And so it's kind of like beyond just the MCU itself, even on a larger sense, like Stan Lee's dream is really getting realized right now.
Yeah, and there's something so truthful about the way that superheroes are formed, because like just take for example like most superheroes are formed out of tragedy. Yeah. And you can look at those pivot points in the real world with just real human beings.
Yeah.
You can see those things as pivot points as well. A lot of times if you asked about being a hero earlier, well, a lot of heroes, if you look at their backstories, there was something tragic where they're like, I'm not going to let this happen again, So I think that and then there's also something about the Stan Lee comment you made where we all root for people to overcome whatever it is. I was just listening to this story on NPR, and it was about this woman whose parents didn't tell her that she was legally blind. And they specifically did not tell her that because they didn't want her to grow up thinking that she was less than other people.
Yeah.
And so she didn't, but then she had to struggle with like, well, I have to admit that I'm legally blind, but I don't want that to limit me in what my life is. And it's like, we want for her to be a hero because that's how our heroes are.
Yeah.
Like she's Daredevil.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yeah.
And I think that's a really cool message of like, don't be defined by what you can't do.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. So, and that's what Stan Lee kind of sort of gave us is like, you could be the next superhero.
Yeah. Yeah. Which Chris Nolan did a little bit with The Dark Knight Rises too.
Yeah. True.
The whole idea of Batman can be anybody.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. I wonder how different the comic book movie landscape is going to look after Infinity War. Because I feel like in a lot of ways, Bryan Singer had a huge hand in revolutionizing superhero movies.
Yes, he did, yeah.
I said that poorly, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Sam Raimi, same thing.
Yep.
Christopher Nolan, same thing.
Yep.
But you cannot deny what Kevin Feige and the MCU have done.
Yeah.
Like, they were the ones who set out and said, we are literally going to put our comic book universe on film.
Yeah.
And they're doing it.
Yeah.
And they've done it. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
But arguably, Infinity War is sort of a culmination.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's not story-wise. I know they're saying that
Right.
Avengers 4 is the culmination.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But for us, they've been playing Thanos up so much that
I know.
putting him on screen
Yep.
is a culmination.
Yep.
And I'm curious to see what it's going to be like after that.
I don't know. I mean, I think that this is why we see reboots happen so frequently in the comic book space is because the stories get so convoluted that if you're introducing new people to them, you almost have to reboot it in a way.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're ever going to build a universe, I mean, take the example of what Marvel did in building their universe. I mean, their universe was built so strategically.
Yeah.
I don't think you could build it better than that.
No. And another thing they had going for them is they didn't have any obligatory storytelling.
Yeah.
So if you look at
Yeah,
the
it's
DC
true.
universe, you have some.
Yeah.
It's like they took a risk in not giving us a Batman origin film.
Yep.
It's like you have to have a Superman origin film. You have
Yep.
to have a Batman origin film because people are so familiar with those stories.
Yes.
Non-comic book fans are familiar with those
It's
stories.
true, yeah.
Non-geeks are familiar with those stories.
Yep.
Kids are familiar with those stories.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Marvel had the luxury of coming along with Iron Man and Thor and characters who comic book fans knew.
Yep.
They know their histories.
Yep.
But the audience at large, they don't care.
Right. Exactly.
Like, we can build this.
Yes.
We can start where we want to start and build what we want to build.
Yeah. And they did an amazing job.
Yeah. And I just listened to a podcast the other day, an interview with Kevin Feige.
Oh,
I could listen to that dude talk all day
really?
because he's a genius. Like, the MCU does not exist without him. He is amazing. And he was making superhero movies before that. He worked with Bryan Singer on the first 3 X-Men movies.
That's crazy.
And he even used to work for Richard and Laura Donner.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
So he's literally groomed to do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it was in the 80s, so it was after the Superman movie, but he's been in this world his whole life.
Right.
So the MCU is not the beginning of it for him, but
Right.
he's so brilliant.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And the fact that he and his team can orchestrate all this stuff is sick.
Yeah.
But then you sit back and you hear him talk, normal guy. He's not weird, he's not crazy, he's super
Yeah.
level-headed, he's very nice, he's very kind,
That's cool.
very humble. And
We need
it's
to have
just
him on
like-
the show.
oh
Who
my
knows
gosh.
Kevin Feige?
Yeah.
We want to talk to him. We want to talk to Kevin Feige on the show.
And it's just, oh my gosh, I'm just so impressed with him.
That's cool.
And that's why I look at like the DC universe, which I enjoy most of those movies, but it's not coming together as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe it just can't happen because you don't have Kevin Feige.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it just doesn't happen without Kevin Feige.
Yeah. True.
You know?
True.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
So there's the answer. Why do we love comic book movies so much? Because Kevin Feige is still making them. That's why.
True. I like it.
So
Well, should we transition into our Patreon questions?
let's do it. Yeah. So
Okay. So you're going to surprise me with these questions.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
So-
Do we need to cap off?
Yeah,
the
let's just cap it
regular
off. I mean,
episode a
that
little
was
bit first?
yeah, that was our great questions from Daryl, recapping best podcast based on your downloads, what you wanted to hear of 2017, and really fun to revisit all of those. If you haven't listened to them, go check them out because I think that they were all really fun to record.
And they're all still out there.
They're all still
Go
out
to
there.
iTunes, go to Podbean.
Yeah, we don't limit any of our backlog, so you can always go back and check out any of the podcasts that we have. And then again, we're gonna have some additional questions that are only available to Patreon subscribers.
Yep.
So that's exclusive content, and if you go to Patreon, there should be a link in the show notes. But if you click over to Patreon, you can become a subscriber. It costs you a little bit a month, or as much as you want to donate. And there's different reward tiers for all of that stuff, and you get to hear the additional additional questions that we have, additional exclusive content. So
That's
we're
right.
going to jump into that, and I hope you enjoyed this show. If you have additional questions that you want us to address from these shows, from the 2017 shows, shoot them over to us. Like, we would love to address some of these questions.
And these are your favorites. Let us know what you want your future favorites to be.
Yes.
What have we not talked about?
Yes.
What do you want to hear about?
Yep.
New and old.
And we really love comments. Like we got a comment this morning on Podbean. That was a great comment. We had 2 new comments on YouTube earlier this week that were fantastic comments. I try and respond to every single comment we get. So please be out there and comment, because we'd love to engage with you and get some of your takes on this stuff too.
And check out the Story Geeks group on podcast. Oh, words. On Facebook.
On Facebook, yeah. Yeah, we have the Story Geeks on Facebook, which is a really fun group, and we're always trying to share new stuff on there. And we have a lot of our fellow podcasters that do other stuff are a part of that group. Mm-hmm. So you can be introduced to additional, like the Story Cauldron, Nerd Soul, Network 1901. Like, a lot of those people are in that group. ESO. Oh yeah, of course. How can I forget ESO? They're some of our first guests ever. So yeah, definitely check out that group, because it's we call it the Story Geeks community, because it's a community of super cool people that want to talk and dig deeper into all the favorite geek stuff. So,
and it's not just us. It's not just us posting stuff and
yep,
people talk about it. I think more often than not these days, people are posting stuff.
It's true.
That we get to comment on and talk
yeah,
about.
It's true. It's true. It's great.